So getting now into the core of the presentation, that leads me to now, what type of resources could I share with you to improve your current situation, whether it be in your job search or trying to change jobs or something like this. So the first thing you need to know, and by the way, this is really how I function, is that for me, you can't get to a destination if you don't have a plan. That's how I see my life. How could I expect to become such a person or to have such a job if I have no clue how to get there? I mean, again, it could be circumstances and luck. And we do have chances, sometimes people who fall into a great opportunity. But I would say for most people out there, it's the result of good strategy. So what is good job search strategy? Well, the first thing I want you to try, and again, it's not easy, but try to maybe leave behind the notion of looking for a job, seeking a job, being unemployed. And I want you to revert that into becoming your project manager. So you're just like you have a project manager for a company. Well, you're the product, you're your own project manager. So you're trying to sell your skills to a company, and it's a little bit different and more positive than being someone who's unemployed or who's seeking a job. So that's more in your mindset. It's not something you're going to write on your resume, obviously, but it's in your mindset to look at yourself every day like a project manager of your own life and your own career. And then you build a strategy around it. So you say, I'm my own project manager in looking for a job in such and such. So how do I build my strategy from there? And the way I went about the topic is to think about companies. How do companies do it when they decide to go and build a product or sell a service? How do they look at it? So when a company decides on a strategy, it's two things. It's what they will do and what they won't do. So if you look at, and I wanted to give you very concrete examples here. So if you look at EasyJet, for example, it's known for being the cheap flights, low cost, etc. That's what they do. So if you ask the CEO, we do cheap flights, we do cheap travel. Now they've expanded, they also do cheap hotels, but we're there to give you a bargain. And when people go and see those colors, sometimes you see the advert. Well, not right now. Obviously, my example is not very is not selected with the right timing in 2020. But when they do advertising, you see those colors, orange and white. You see EasyJet, you know exactly you're going to get a good deal, a bargain. So that's what they're known for. You see the colors, you see EasyJet, you think good deal, bargain. Now, if I show you this photo of Dior, what do you think immediately? You think expensive, you think nice packaging, trendy, luxurious. I mean, there's different kinds of words that goes through your mind. So it's a little bit different when you see these colors and these photos and when you see this. So the reason why I'm showing this to you is to say, what about you? When I see your name, what are you going to do? What do you stand for? Are you a IT specialist? Are you a marketing expert? What are you known for? So it's to define a little bit your branding as well. But what you won't do, what you do, just like what you won't do, is important, because sometimes the typical person looking for work doesn't have a lot of boundaries. So you get a little bit torn between too many different things, and you're losing your value and your efficiency because you're going in too many different directions. So you need to focus on what it is that you want and build your resume, your profile based on that. So number two is you have to become your own project manager. You're not born with it, as we would say. And it's okay. I mean, no one is born being something. So what I want you to do, and you can do this at home a little bit, it's just your self-evaluation. So maybe you can just write this down, or you will have the replay anyway. So if you don't pick it up right now, it's okay. But the self-evaluation would be something like, what do I want to start doing right now? What's important to me? And now is a good time. It's the end of the year. So usually during the end of the year, I know I'm going through this right now, where you almost do a replay of what happened, I would say, outside of something we don't control, like the virus, but more for your personal life, like, what do I want to start doing and what do I want to stop doing? So maybe you realize in 2020 you wasted too much time. I think we can probably say yes to this one, myself included. Well, I think I was efficient, I would say probably 90% of the time, but I have this 10% that bugs me a little bit. So, were you efficient? You're 100% of the time? Did you go and use this time to actually build, more networking, more relationships maybe with your family? Did you go and learn new skills? Did you take advantage to go on courses? So this is the type of example that you can use. What do I want to stop doing? Watching Facebook and spend time, going through Instagram and Facebook and wasting time. What do I want to start doing? Maybe learning a new course, learning a language, etc. Think about those things that you can do that are a bit more proactive for your objective. What makes you unique? Do you have special skills that you haven't put on your resume yet, or that you are maybe trying to bring up to the next level? A good example would be, and that's for everybody actually, and no matter where you're located, a language skills is huge value. So if you have a bit of time, try to learn a language that's useful. I would say probably the three main ones in the world would be French, English, and Spanish, and German. If you're looking in Switzerland, obviously French, English, and German would be the number 3. So, think about that. What you could use. If you have multiple languages in any country, you will be above average. So that could make you a unique person. Do you have key competencies? For example, I talk to clients all the time, every day, where after an hour, 2 hours spent with them, I realize, where is this on your resume? I don't see it, and it's so many things that we have, but we don't think about putting it down because we see it maybe as a side thing, or it's not relevant, but it shows also different types of a person. So for example, if you're an accountant and that's what you do, or let's say you're, or even a marketing person, and you say, well, I spent some time traveling, and, I was volunteering for 2 months somewhere in India or in China. And well, that's important because that shows, first of all, that you're worldly, that you actually went outside of your comfort zone. Maybe if you volunteered in another country, that also shows that you're willing to learn new skills. So think about, how you present yourself and key competencies that you may have also from other experiences. The next thing you want to think about is, are your competencies more adapted to small businesses, multinational, startup? I call that positioning. You can be a jack of all trade. Usually you have to pick what it is that you do well and who do you do it well. I know, for example, in my personal situation, I was always working in multinationals. And unfortunately, it wasn't really suited for me. I didn't know this because I just started like everyone else in the 90s. You just went and worked for a big company. But now with reflection, I realize if I really think about who I am as a person, I'm not a multinational type of person or big organization type of a person. I would probably be more of a startup or small business type of a lady. So you just have to know what culture suits you. Sometimes you don't know this when you start your career, when you're still in the process of exploration and trying things. Sometimes it's experience, you work for a multinational once or twice, you realize, well, there's something that's not going well there because I keep getting into these issues. And you realize, well, yeah, because you're not a multinational type of person. I mean, multinationals tend to be very political. It's very much, most of the time, top down. You have a lot of people doing different things. No one really knows who's accountable. I mean, there's lots of complexities in multinationals, especially with reporting and all that. It's complicated. And number 6, which geographical region is the most adapted to you? You also need to think about that. And again, most people that contact me is because they are interested in Switzerland, but sometimes I say, keep your options open, because you may realize that the opportunity comes from somewhere else. And that's really about not thinking in terms of silo and with, barriers around your eyes. It's really to look at things a little bit broader and to say, okay, opportunity comes from anywhere. So let's keep the horizons open. And even though you may have a specific region you're interested in, it could be your first priority, but then maybe you have a second or third priority that could be interesting to look at. So what do you need to know in job search basics? Well, the first thing that you need to know is to register on selected job boards and upload your resume. So I would say if you haven't done that yet, that's like the given. I would probably not even need to mention it because it's so basic. But you have to also give yourself some concrete objectives. And that's really the core of this presentation, is the organization of your agenda and of following up also with your applications, etc. So you have to give yourself some objectives, because otherwise you're going to forget or not move forward. You need to join groups online or in person, probably online right now because of what's going on. And this is just a bonus for those of you who would be a bit more daring, is to start your own community. So you have a lot of communities out there already put together, I would say, already organized. But you can also start your own. Starting your own community could be great to keep you busy, to expand your horizons. It gives you also an activity that you do whilst you're out trying to get an opportunity. But I realize that that's not in everyone's capacity. So that's why you have a lot of groups online. So then the question I anticipate is, where do I find all these groups? And we'll talk about that in a minute when I'm back in the group. So what are some of the high demand sectors? I wanted to put that in there because I thought when somebody's out looking for work or trying to change jobs or what have you, the big question is, where are the opportunity areas? Because, and I see that especially with young people, I do find that there's a big disconnect between students or universities and the working world. So there's a huge disconnect. Students believe that, they should do what they love, which I think to some extent you should do something that you enjoy. But at the same time, you need to take into account the need for your skill. So if you have a great skill that you love, but there's no job, obviously it's not a great idea. Now, if there's a skill that you like, even though you may not love it, but you like it enough, and you can live with it, and there's a market, then it's a good match. So you should always take that into consideration. So I just wanted to put some high demand sectors. Again, this is across the board because I had done some research for Belgium when I was doing a presentation. So, and France as well. So I could say probably these are high demand sectors across the board, Europe and beyond probably. So the first one is construction. So if you're an engineer, technician, designer, a lot of those, what I call practical trades. So your electrician, your plumber, and probably for those of you who are watching tonight, you may not be in that category, but yeah, those jobs are in demand. People who can fix things in general. There's lots of construction going on as well, especially for homes and apartments. Everywhere is a little bit a need for those things. So, and I would add to that, of course, that's linked to some extent is real estate, commercial, and all that. So real estate is always in demand. When people ask me, what should I do, etc., and if you're completely lost and you don't want to do extensive research, go with the basic human needs. So people need to eat. They need to be, health. And we see that right now for sure. So food, health, and shelter. You can't go wrong with any of the three. So if you're really confused, what should I be doing? Go in any of those three sectors and you will always have a job, because you will always have people needing shelter and a house or apartment, people needed to be taken care of from a health perspective, and people who need to eat. So people who work in grocery stores right now are not unemployed because it's the basic need. Same thing with people working in hospitals. So those are the three main ones. But here on my slide, basically, I have construction as high demand, manufacturing with engineers. Again, engineers keep coming back. I would say in Germany, probably you have more of the industry sector than in the other parts of Europe, but still manufacturing I find is quite big. Healthcare. So that's a no-brainer right now. You probably see this every day in your news. So hospital is in demand for taking care of the elderly, nurses, care workers, people work in the labs. and specialists, and you could add to that doctors, etc. Now, there's a caveat to that, and I keep saying this for expats. Before you go in the health field, make sure that it's transportable or mobile, meaning that if you want to follow a partner at some point, you want to travel, work in different countries, a lot of these healthcare jobs are not very portable. So if you're a doctor, for example, chances are you can't practice worldwide. You would have to redo your whole studies. So just be careful. I would say if you're going into health, it's a great idea, but pick maybe more research on health or working in a lab or doing something that you can easily do from different parts of the world that you don't have to study again to get the certification and the licenses and all that. And a lot of the face-to-face health type of jobs like doctors and nurses and all that, they usually require a local license. So this is not a great idea for an expat. Now, if you're going to go into that, again, do maybe the research. There's lots of things that you can do with health, maybe more on the administration end than the actual clinical end. IT sector and tech, that's a given everywhere worldwide now. If you're a programmer, administrator, IT administrator, the software engineers, all these people get hired in a split second. So if you want to go into something that has a future, I would say anything with the word tech in it. And I validated that when I looked at the biggest startups in Switzerland, top 100, they all have a word tech in it. So either they're biotech or edutech or it's all tech related. So yeah, we're going into digital, into tech, into artificial intelligence in the upcoming years, and it's already starting very heavily. So if you want to have a job in the next, again, I'm always looking into the future. So because when I advise people, I'm always thinking long term, not just for now. So go into something that has tech in it. You're sure you're guaranteed of a job. Otherwise, the three I just mentioned, food, shelter, and health. So what you need in the new normal, so this is the situation that we're in right now, to be a employee of choice or a great potential for an organization. Well, number one skill you need is knowledge of your business niche. So again, if you're a project manager, you're going to take all this into account to be the best that you can be. So knowledge of your business niche, identification of the go-to people and places, where's the network that I need to build? What are the groups that I need to belong to get those connections and learn about the marketplace that hires, training to bridge your skills gap. So if you realize that, if I want to be in tech, I need to do a degree now because I don't have the skills. Attention online via great profile. So profile building, I just did a workshop on that, a boot camp for 2 days on LinkedIn and a CV. I only offer it once a quarter because it's huge preparation on my end, and it's a whole weekend. The next one is coming up end of February, and you can pre-register for it right now if you want. But again, it's going to be once a quarter, and it's all about application building. So just to let you know. Showcasing your own content. This is huge, a differentiator in 2020. So everyone looks the same. So especially if you're in a non-hot area. So if you're a software engineer and you haven't put a lot of effort into your content, I would say, and you're in a city or an area where there's lots of demand, you probably don't have to work so hard. Now, if you are not in a hot sector and you want to be seen, you're going to have to build even more credibility around your profile. Networking with selected communities. So it's a little bit linked to the go-to people there. I would say start now if you haven't started yet. This is a huge differentiator as well between people who will be answering, sending their resume on job boards and the ones that are a bit more in advance and have understood already that it's all going to be about who's connected, who has access to certain pieces of information. And again, the hidden market, which I will talk about also when I talk about networking, it's all about the connection. So if you're not in certain circles or you don't have access to a level of secrecy, I would say that you'll never see those jobs. So for example, this morning I shared in my group a company in Switzerland that's massively hiring in IT right now. There's absolutely no way the people in my group could have known that this company was hiring just like that in a split second. They would have had to do research on that. So yeah, it's because they're part of my group and I share my secret sauce with them and my input and my research, so they have access to this type of information without having to research it themselves. So yeah, it's the example of the difference between people who have access to the information and people will try to find it themselves, but always will be on the at the end of the process, applying online and not understanding why they're not moving forward. I put this one in there because I find even if you're a great IT person or a great software developer, what have you, if you don't have the social and influential skills, again, you're not differentiating yourself. And at some point, especially if you move upward in the ladder, even if you're a great technical person, if you can't use those very well, you're going to be limited in terms of your growth. So you might do very well as a software developer, stay there, make your boss happy, and we need people like this in companies. So when I was working in HR, in talent management, we had two different kinds of people. So we had the people that we would call the high potential. So these were people who had the potential to move upward. And then we had the solid workers, the people who were good at what they were doing. And we need those people in organizations. They keep the ship together. They do good work, but they're never going to be able to move forward because they don't have those social and influential skills. So if you're a manager and you grow and you have a bigger team, you will need to influence your team. You will need to influence for performance. You will also need the social skills to know who you should be having lunch with and, to be able to access certain resources. So for example, when I was working in one of the organizations, I realized that some people were always getting the resources. So how come is this manager getting more budget or getting an additional staff? And then I started thinking, well, it's because they had these social and influential skills. They were able to sell to HR that they needed, more space, more people, more budget, and they were getting it. And then you had managers elsewhere who didn't get anything because they didn't know how to ask, they didn't know how to talk to people. So these will really make a huge difference in your career when you want to grow. So again, even if you have a great job, you have good salary, you're a good solid performer, it's called, but you're not going to make it to the next step if you don't learn those skills. And they can be acquired. So you're going to say, well, is that something you're born with? Some people, I think, are better. They're good with people. They have those social skills, I would say, naturally. And usually your salespeople are like that. But again, it's not an impossible thing. So if you're aware, the first step is to be aware you don't have those skills and to say, I want to develop them. I want to learn and practice and become better. And, everyone has access to that if they put the work into it and they really want it. So I would say go and start developing those skills right now. They will make a huge difference in your career and you will not regret it. And finally, knowledge of tech and social media. So of course, tech, as I just said, is probably the buzzword of my presentation. Anything is going tech now. So if you have a basic diploma in tech, I would say that's great. And if you can use social media as well and you understand social media, you can get more visibility. And you add to that the social skills, then you're a super queen, or a super king. So I gave you the recipe on how to become an employee of choice in 2020. Get a good degree, good skill, usually something that has tech in it. Work on your profile, your social media, your network, build your social and influential skills, and you won't have to look for a job. Basically, you will be sought after. So that's basically all you have to do.